All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us again for the next edition of Moving Beyond the Coronavirus Economy series. And today we're fortunate to have our guest, Amanda Beren, who's with CorpNet. And I'm excited to have Amanda on. I've actually worked with Amanda for, I don't know, I'd say maybe 8 years, something like that, 9 years, quite some time, quite a long time. And Amanda has helped businesses all over the country of all sizes and shapes with so many different needs and helping them through that business filings, renewals, ownership transfers, all different kinds of things, Secretary of State updates and compliance issues that need to happen for your business entity. And so this is something for all of you tuning in that's going to be a critical component for your franchisees, or is a critical component for your franchisees. And so, Amanda, I'd love for you to just get us started here, maybe do a little introduction about you and CorpNet, and just an FYI here, this is the part of doing a live show is things like this happen. There have been some accidents on the highway today that have delayed Amanda from being in front of her video camera. She's not being camera shy today. So, but so anyway, I'm just glad we're able to have her on for the episode here. So with that being said, Amanda, why don't we go ahead and turn things over to you, and I'm going to pull up your presentation and go ahead and share my screen for you to talk through a little bit.
Perfect. Okay, good. Well, thank you so much for having me. Just a little background on myself. I've been in the business filings industry for about 25 years. And our company focuses on business formations and business compliance mainly. So we set up corporations and LLCs in all 50 states, and we assist with the compliance of the business as far as their annual reports, annual meeting minutes, registered agent renewals, the things that most business owners will usually forget to do if we don't remind them to do it. So with our business filing service, it's basically a turnkey. So we set up the LLC or corporation, we obtain the tax ID number, we prepare the operating agreement and minutes, we send them all of their documentation in a nice zip up kit with everything inside, ready for them to give to the franchisor or take to the bank or do whatever they need to do with it. We also send them electronic copies just in case they lose the paperwork. So we really try to streamline it for the business owners. So there's really not much that they have to do at that point. And then with the franchisees also, we assist them with not only setting up their business, but we can also get them registered for sales tax. We can get them registered for employer tax. Once it's time for them to open their location, we assist them with their DBA. And we can assist with business licenses and things like that. And so the DBA is usually part of the wherever their location might be. So I usually wait to do the DBA until the franchisee knows exactly where their location is going to be. And then if the franchisor has any specific requirements as far as how their DBA should be, then we accommodate that and we go with whatever the franchisor recommendations are.
Great. And Amanda, that's one thing that I wanted to ask. So as a franchisor or someone that's looking to work with you as a franchisor, how does that generally work in terms of collaborating, working directly with the franchisees? Because one of the things that I'm aware of and that we've spoken of in the past, but I would like to, I'm actually going to take a step back and ask you a totally different question. So I'm going to ask you 3 questions and then clarify which one to answer. Sorry about that. But as a franchisor, why is it important for the franchisor to make sure that their franchisees are being compliant and that these things are in order from a franchise system standpoint?
Absolutely. So from the perspective of just getting the business formation done, setting up a corporation or an LLC is important because the business owner is separating themselves from the entity from a personal liability standpoint. And the individual franchise itself is its own separate entity. So not only is it separating itself from the individual franchisee, but it's also separating itself from the franchisor. So if something were to happen from a liability standpoint, they would be protected as far as being sued personally. The franchisor is separated from it as well. And same goes with the compliance. So it's important for LLCs and corporations to keep up with their annual maintenance, because once the company goes out of good standing, if it loses that status, then it opens up the business. It's called piercing the corporate veil. And basically it can hold the individual business owners, which would be the franchisee, and sometimes in even certain cases, the franchisor personally liable for any lawsuits that happen. So it's really important for the business to maintain its good standing. And by doing that would be filing the annual state filings that are due for the LLC, which are different in every state. I mean, sometimes it's the anniversary date, sometimes it's a set date. For example, Florida is every year on May 1st. So it's important for them to get those filed, and most states don't remind the business owner. So our system is set up to where it sends auto alerts to the franchisee to remind them. And then we also call and follow up with them, and we can file the annual filings for them as well.
Yeah, well, and one of the things that I was really interested about, because it would seem like when the franchisee first starts and opens the business, forming it, you can help support the franchisee in forming that legal entity and going through that process. It
Yes.
also seems like the extreme value add here is these annual renewals, updates, annual meetings, all of the reports to stay legally compliant, I guess. I don't know if I'm using the right words, but
Yeah.
maybe you could talk a
No,
little bit
that's
about that, because it
perfect.
would seem like for an operating franchisee, my experience has shown they're running their business, and so it's easy to lose sight of these renewals
Exactly.
and things at the state where the state's not reminding you. The fee is usually pretty small. It's not a huge fee for it, but talk a little bit
Yeah.
about that and the potential risk or
Yeah.
challenges you see.
Yeah, absolutely. And keep in mind, most franchisees, oftentimes this is their first business. They've never operated a business. So these things are really foreign to them, as far as the setup and the compliance. So it's important for them to know that there are annual fees. It's basically like renewing your driver's license or renewing your insurance plan. So it's a filing with the state that needs to be done. If they're late or if they don't file the report, oftentimes in most states, the state will immediately suspend the LLC and put it into bad standing. So if the business owner doesn't know that they've lost that status and someone sues them, let's just say a customer slips and falls in the restaurant and sues the business, they would, at that point, if the company is not in good standing, they would be suing the individual business owners personally, and oftentimes the franchise as well.
So Amanda, we lost you there for a second, but it sounded like
So that's really the main goal in keeping up with the
okay. And Amanda, we lost you there for a second on the connection.
and avoiding late fees. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're going in and out there.
Okay, got it. I must be going through a bad spot here.
Yeah, looks like you're back on. So you were talking about the franchisees being out of compliance, and really the franchisee could be held personally liable for any issue or challenge that might come up if
Yes,
their business is out of compliance. And so I think, to me, that's a big critical piece as the franchisor. Obviously, you want to help your franchisees be protected. That's the whole part of this. So,
exactly.
doing, yeah. So talk a little bit about that again.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a protection standpoint from, I mean, the purpose of setting up a business entity, not only for tax purposes, but it's really mainly for personal liability. So the business owner is taking the business and separating it from themselves as an individual. But if they don't keep up with their annual compliance, it defeats the purpose of having that separation, because it immediately can put the business into a suspended status, a default status. So if something happens and a customer sues the business, if the company is not in good standing, if they've lost that because they haven't filed their compliance, then it would immediately go straight through the business to the business owners individually, and sometimes even the franchisor. So it's really important for them to keep that good standing, to maintain that legal compliance and good standing for the LLC.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so I guess what ways does CorpNet, or can you recommend to
Mhm.
franchisors to help their support the franchisees in maintaining that compliance, and
Mhm.
for all parties involved, because it's really a benefit for everybody to do that.
Exactly. Exactly. So what we do is when we get them set up, and this can go for new franchisees or this can go for existing franchisees. So maybe there's some franchisees that already have their business entity set up, but they keep missing these annual compliance and important events that need to happen for the LLC. We basically set them up with an account on our system. And from that point, they get updates and reminders of any renewals that need to happen. So they'll start getting alerts 90 days, 60 days, 30 days, 2 weeks, 3 days before. So we basically somewhat pester them to get these annual compliance filings done. And we also call them. So we have me personally, I have a team and some compliance specialists that work with me, specifically for my partners, which would be the franchisor, that would basically be calling them and getting them to do this. So if they're ignoring the alerts, or maybe they don't check their email that often, we basically call them and follow up with them, make sure we do everything that we can to get them to get these renewed, basically. Sometimes it's a matter of actually calling them and explaining this to them, because a lot of people, they don't check their email, or they don't check it often enough. Maybe it went to spam. So we do everything that we can to make sure that the LLC stays in compliance.
Okay, great. Yeah, no, that's
But
very.
that shouldn't be something that the franchisor has to worry about.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great point. And one of the things that as I had mentioned earlier, I've worked with CorpNet for many years now, and I've appreciated the what I've really liked is kind of having a dedicated account manager or person to help support
Yes.
and make sure that things are going. And that's been a standout for me. One of the reasons I wanted you on, because I know you're a great value and support system for business owners, whether they're franchising or not, whether they're a client of ours or not.
Yeah.
I'm a happy, satisfied customer, and so
Good.
yeah, wanted to share that. But how can
Absolutely.
how talk about your program for franchisors and what that
Yeah.
looks like, and how you can help that franchisor keep all of this compliance stuff, at least from business registrations and reports, annual reports, and so on, that you can help manage that for the franchisor.
Definitely. And that's a good segue into that particular subject, because there's lots of service companies out there that the franchisee can go do this with. I mean, there's millions. So one thing special about our partner program is working with us, you have a dedicated account manager. And under that account manager, there's a team of people that works with the account manager. So if you're sending somebody over to us, they'll be assigned one particular person, which is usually me, that's familiar with the franchisor, that particular franchisor's requirements, whether it be we only want them to have an LLC or we want the DBA to be filed like this. So they get very personal service. You're not just kind of sending them blindly to set up their LLC or create an account. We walk them through the process. We tell them everything that they need specifically for their particular franchise. If it's a service-based franchise, they're most likely not going to need a sales tax registration. If it's a retail store, or restaurant, they will. And oftentimes they'll also need business licensing and permits and things like that. So we really walk them through the process, especially because most of the franchisees, they really don't know any of this stuff. It's all very new to them. So the service that we offer with our partner program is we get the franchisor set up with an account. So they would be listed as a partner. If they have a logo or custom wording or anything like that, I create custom intake forms, and then I send it over to the franchisee or the potential franchisee for them to fill out with all the required information. And then as far as the partner program goes, we can either give them a discount for referring them over, or I can send the franchise or a referral fee back to them. So however you want to get that set up, that's not, that's completely up to you. You can do it either way. So, but usually it's just a matter of doing an email introduction or having us as like a preferred vendor, for example, with contact information, or I can reach out to them in particular. It's usually easier to do more of a personal introduction. So I can reach out to them and let them know. And it's also nice to know what franchise they're coming from, because I do have some franchisor partners that have multiple franchises that they send over. So, but yeah, I would say as far as the partner program goes, dedicated account manager, personal service, as well as either the discount or the referral fee.
Great. Great. Oh, that's excellent. And in terms of other things here that you really wanted to make sure you were able to focus on or talk about today, what other points of interest would be noteworthy here to share and talk through? You've covered, I know, some high level things, but were there other key points you were hoping to get across here?
Mainly just the streamlining everything. Because one of the biggest pain points that I've found working with franchisors is with new franchisees, just getting them to do this. And when they do it, getting everything done that they need to do. So I've seen franchisees come back with, here's my articles of organization. Where's your EIN? Oh, I'll go get that now. So just kind of piecemealing it together and trying to figure out exactly what they need. Because at the initial step of the business formation, it's not something that the franchisor or the franchisee really wants to have to deal with. They want to talk about the franchise itself. So this completely streamlines it. So send them over to me. I get all of that done, send them back to you, and it's done. It's out of your mind for both the franchisee and the franchisor.
Yeah. And what, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, another thing that I forgot to mention with the partner program is some of the franchisors set it up to where they're actually offering this service. So they include it in their franchise package. So that's another thing that we can factor in as well, to where I'm not even working with the franchisee. The franchisor includes all of this in their franchise package, and I
Mm.
just do it for them. So that's another option that we can do as well.
And I would imagine in that case, the franchisor is probably just taking advantage of the discount of having that partner
Yes.
program set up there.
Exactly.
Great.
Exactly. So you would basically get my service at wholesale and collect the information from the franchisee, send it over to me. I get it set up, send it back to you, and then it's done. So the franchisee is kind of not even in the picture.
Mm-hmm.
And the cost and everything like that is just incorporated into the cost of the franchise.
Great. That's a great value add to, that's a
Yeah,
great idea to add that for the franchisees.
definitely.
Yeah. Well, and I guess and one thing I did want to make a note of, the price point for your service, by the way, is extremely affordable. I mean, we're not talking about, this is not, and thousands of dollars to file
Right.
paperwork and different things like that.
Exactly.
All of the pricing is listed on the website. And in fact, maybe I'll just pull that up really quickly
Sure.
to share that.
Yeah, it's really affordable, and the fees vary in different states as far as the state fees, but our fees are the same for all 50 states. And I would say on average, the franchise package with everything included, with the permits and the DBA, would be around $500 plus state fees. And if they
Okay.
just need the LLC set up, it's about 250.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Perfect. Yeah. And so if you're at corpnet.com, you can just click form a business. You click the business type. If someone wanted to do it, LLC is really common, and you pick the state of, just Florida, because you mentioned that,
Mhm.
it doesn't matter which state
Sure.
you hit get started, and then it gives you their fee. So you see here for total turnkey package, it's $249, deluxe is $199, and basic $799. And it includes, you can kind of get all these different
Yeah,
things added in. So you factor that plus the state fees and mailing fees or filing fees or whatever it might be, and you get to your final price. But the pricing's that's the other reason I like what you're doing. It's very reasonable, very
exactly.
affordable, and great service.
Exactly. Because they're already doing their, franchise sometimes with the uh, SBA, getting an SBA loan, or however they're doing it. So we try to make it affordable, and then working with the franchisor to find out what exactly they need from that person in order to get the ball rolling. So they'll always need the EIN, or they'll always need a DBA. So just kind of customizing the franchisor's needs on what they need from the franchisee to get everything taken care of.
Yeah, perfect. And will you talk a little bit about one of your slides here? It's called Other
Mhm.
Tools, and you've got a business
Yes.
structure wizard. And what is that?
Yeah. So if someone is not sure what entity type they should go with, we have a business structure wizard that takes them through a few questions and asks them about their business. And at the end, it will give a recommendation as to what business entity type they should go with. I've found that in this particular industry, most franchisees go LLC for a couple of different reasons. It's easier to maintain, there's less maintenance, they don't need annual meeting minutes like corporations do. And also, LLCs don't have shares. So, one thing that I've found is franchisors feel a little uneasy with the franchisee, or franchisors feel uneasy with the franchisees setting up corporations because they don't want the franchisee to issue shares of stock to anyone within the corporation, because once you issue shares of stock, that person then becomes a franchisee. So they need to kind of reel that in and have a little bit more control over it. So LLC is definitely much easier with that aspect. If it's John and Susan buying a franchise, setting up an LLC, it's just John and Susan as the business owners, whether they're 50-50. But if it's a corporation, they're issuing shares of stock, and they don't want them to have to issue shares of stock to any family members or anything like that. So in certain cases, I've seen corporation, but usually LLC is the way to go.
Interesting. Okay. And is there, that's interesting. I guess that makes sense from the franchisor standpoint, about issuing stock. They're going to want to
Right.
know who owns the stock. And then you'd have to have potentially personal guarantees, confidentiality agreements,
Exactly.
non-compete agreements signed, and it just starts going down another rabbit hole there.
Exactly. It's just a little bit more stable to have the business set up as an LLC.
Interesting. Okay. Great. Well, I'd love to open things up. I've got your contact up here, Amanda, but just
Great.
real quick, what's the best way for someone to reach you? Is it phone? Is it email? What's the best way?
Either one. So for phone or email. Best thing to do would be to set up some time to chat so I can get the franchisor partner account set up. There's no cost to sign up. There's no annual cost. It's literally just pay as you go if you're even doing the reseller as far as you setting up the LLC for the franchise. Other than that, there's no fee. So if you're referring people over, I would just need to know up front what you want me to do. Am I giving your franchisee a discount? Am I sending you a referral fee? So either phone or email works. I usually say email is best just so we can schedule some time. My email is A Beren, and that's A as in apple, B as in boy, E as in Edward, N as in Nancy, E as in Edward, N as in Nancy. Or I'm sorry, ABER as in Robert, E as in Edward, N as in Nancy at corpnet.com.
Yeah, perfect. So Beren at corpnet.com.
Yes.
Perfect. And we'll make sure we get that all set up. And yeah, so I mean, part of the cool thing about this program is you can have the do it for you service, or you can set this up as the, you do it yourself under this program for your franchisees or other businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So you have some options. It's one of the cool things I like about, sharing this with you and going over. Well, Amanda, what I'd like to do is see if there are any questions. We've got a few folks on the line here. Are there other questions from anyone attending? Feel free, just go ahead, raise your hand or type it in the chat box. I can unmute you to ask directly if that's easier as well. All right. Well, I'm not seeing any other questions here. So with that being said here, what I would like to do, let's see. Oh, I've got you on here.
I just logged on from my computer. So.
Oh, you made it to your destination. Excellent.
I did.
Great. Well, glad we were able to, at least at the tail end here. And for those of you who joined in maybe a little late or halfway through, they're just traffic congestion issues and car accidents. And, part of the fun of doing live events is these things happen and create delays. So, well, Amanda, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And
absolutely.
By the way, if you haven't listened to this, so we had one of the founders of CorpNet on the line or on our podcast a few weeks ago, maybe a month or two ago it's been, but
I think it was a month ago.
Yep. And she kind of shared her story. Nellie shared her story about kind of how she started the business, which was kind of cool. And Amanda's been around for a long time, really, I think since the very beginning, if I remember correctly.
Yes. Yeah. I started CorpNet with the founders. And even before that, we had another service company that we started in 1998 that was sold in 2006. And we had a 3-year non-compete. And literally the day our non-compete was up, we started CorpNet.
Wow.
So
Wow, amazing. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for being here. And we have some accolades, it looks like, coming in too. So Trina, thank you for the kind words, and for sharing some thanks and appreciation for Amanda's time here as well. We're grateful.
Yes,
And
definitely.
yeah, thank you all so much. And we will have another edition of Navigating the Coronavirus Economy next week. We're going to be talking about some franchise um, funding. And excuse me, I'm sorry. Next week, we are going to be talking about health insurance for franchisees and different opportunities to be able to provide, or maybe for your own business. So, Amanda, thank you so much again for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you
It
so much for having me.
all right. Thank you all. Have a great weekend.
You too. Have a good one.
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.